I'm Raal Harris. I'm Chief Creative Officer with Ocean Technologies Group, a provider of technology solutions across learning, crew management, and fleet management as well. Yeah, I think the question we need to ask first of all is what problems the company are trying to solve, because if you zoom into the data, sometimes you get sort of a little bit lost in that, and you can get sort of siloed in that, which is part of the biggest problem with data anyway. So if you look at the problems, then you might actually find that different parts of data that you wouldn't expect to correlate and come together, and that's sort of something that we're definitely seeing. We started out as a learning business, looking at e-learning sort of provider. As we've kind of acquired other businesses and brought things like crew management and fleet management into the picture, we're seeing all sorts of relationships between the data from those systems, but also third-party data as well. And that's kind of informing us to look at the problem in a slightly different way. And I think what companies will find when they really go down the data journey is that things are, the information that it gives them about their business, by connecting different data sets, then they can start to see that actually different factors are influencing them perhaps they thought. And one of the things that we see, for example, that there's often a bit of a gap between some of the problems that we see when we start to look at a data level and what the company is doing to remedy that. So maybe some of the priorities, for example, are in the wrong place and their energy is going in slightly the wrong place compared to what the performance is actually telling them. Yeah, I mean, that's really the value that you get from working with a vendor and a provider. You know, being able to, it's one thing to provide the tools, but it's another to actually help people on that journey to understanding how to get the most out of them. And you see, it's a very different picture out there, as I'm sure it is in the room here at CMA. You've got sort of small operators who might be just kind of, have very limited resources when it comes to working with something like this, and other big ship managers with 600 ships who've got all sorts of roles and are able to resource it in different ways. So it's a really important part of it, the consultancy element. We don't sell consultancy, but obviously we want people to get the most out of what they're doing. And obviously with such a huge audience and customer base, we're able to actually advise and see what's worked elsewhere and sort of, how you can kind of bring that to bear. Well, I think a lot of it is really sort of already here, and we haven't the things we're already aware of probably haven't got to the full extent of that. So just for example, one of our biggest issues as an industry has been connectivity. We've been unable to do what a lot of the wider world has been doing for a long time. Now we're seeing things lighting up and much more reliable and affordable connectivity. I think that's starting to already disrupt a lot of the traditional ways that we've worked and so on. But I think really when you start to look at things like machine learning and AI and how that's able to interpret data, I think that's the crucial thing, because it's one thing to have all the data but you need someone to analyze it and to tell you what's going on and to guide and inform what decisions then need to be made. Once you start layering in machine learning, and you can probably see if you've played around with ChatGPT, it's not just grabbing you the information like a Google search would. It's interpreting that information. It's making that information into coherent arguments that a person can very simply understand. And if you look at that, when you start to think about fleet metrics, when you start to think about all the data that companies such as ourselves have, being able to have a machine effectively working 24/7, processing that and giving you then the guided next best action, I think that's going to completely change it, because it will make all sorts of things possible. The second thing I think is we have to acknowledge as well is the transparency angle, because once you have all those vessels lit up, once you have all these APIs exchanging data, you really start to get very quickly into a place where it's going to be impossible to hide things. So we have to get used as an industry to transparency, and we've not had a fantastic track record of that over the years. So I think we've got to get used to that. We've got to embrace that. We've got to see how elevating that, getting the visibility on what's really happening, and then being sincere about making improvements that we need. I think that's going to change things dramatically. Well, I think it's going to be very difficult for some companies. There's as we're seeing with ESG reporting, it's that difference between what you say you do and what you actually do. That becomes very, very clear, and because it demands these solid data points, evidence for everything that you say you're doing, and I think that evidence is kind of going to be there because you're able to see, Internet of Things, the kind of the sort of endless chatter of all your systems and the data. And we're even seeing sort of external parties, so you don't even necessarily have to give anyone your data. They're able to, through telemetry, through kind of, putting data sources together, they're able to actually have some view on how you're actually operating without you giving them any data, without them accessing any of your data at all. So this is the way it's going, and there isn't any way to hide from it. So what that means is we have to really look and stop fixating on, how do I kind of tick this box, to being what kind of business do I want to be, and how am I going to achieve that? What do I need to put in place? What do I need to measure? What's my benchmark, and how am I going to kind of set objectives and goals that are sincere, that will produce the kind of data that I want to see at the end of it?